Hi guys, I hope you're still enjoying the lockdown and doing the things that you're supposed to do, taking care, staying home. Of course, you don't have a choice, but also working on the things that you're supposed to work as far as college and school is concerned. All right, so I've been trying to figure out what is the best possible platform to conduct sessions. We tried Zoom and Skype, and I thought that was quite painful. So, for so I thought of using maybe this platform where I record a video and upload it, especially for sessions where not much participation is required from your side. So I can just keep on talking, and then you guys get what is supposed to be gotten from it. So that is why this video is as an experiment. Let's see how this goes, and if it works, then at least for some things we can use this. So what I'm going to do in this video is I'm going to look at the milestone assignment 2 that I had issued for history of cinema, and I'll go through the answers. The assignment was based on I'll just wait for the plane to pass. That might just disturb, that might get in the way of the sound, so we'll just wait for a minute. Okay, so the assignment was based on film editing. I asked you to watch three films, Bonnie and Clyde and The Usual Suspects, which you watched right now, and 1917, which we had watched at the beginning of the semester. So this assignment was based on that. It had 5 questions, also based on the documentary The Cutting Edge that I had asked you to watch. So now most of you did a very decent job in answering the questions, but I thought some of you were completely off track, and I thought didn't really get what the questions were asking. So what I thought is, through this video I'll just go through the answers and quickly go through what was really expected in those. Now let me be clear that there was no right or wrong, and I wanted you to express your own opinions as far as the answers were concerned after what you felt after watching the films. While you could have taken references from Google, there is a lot that is written about these films because they are quite famous films, all three of them. So while you could draw references from other sources, I was mostly expecting answers in your own words, which many of you have done. But let's just highlight some of the points which I thought where some of you have gone off track and not really knowing what was expected. There were some bullet points in each of the answers which should have shown, which you should have included in the answers, but they are missing from some of you, not all of you. So why I'm doing this is because you will be able to know what you have missed based on what you have written in the answers, and eventually when this assignment is graded, I have not graded it yet, but when it is graded, you will understand why you have been marked down or why points have been cut at some places if I have cut them. And then it also works as an experimentation for whether this medium works for us. All right, so let's begin with the first question. The first question just asked you, in between these two films, 1917 and Usual Suspects, which was a linear narrative and which was a non-linear narrative. Pretty straightforward answer. 1917 is linear. Usual Suspects is non-linear. Most of you have got this right. This I gave you these two films so that you just understand how a linear narrative progresses and how a non-linear narrative is dealt with in terms of filmmaking. 1917 being an extreme example of a linear narrative, because the story not only progresses from point A to point B, but also the long shots and virtually no cuts, no edits in the film really take this linear quality of the narrative to an extreme level, right? So it's as if we are actually watching the story as it is progressing in time. Whereas Usual Suspects is a non-linear narrative, we are hearing most of the story through the narration of a character in the form of verbal hint, and the narrative keeps going back and forth between when Agent Kuyan is actually questioning Kint and how he's making up his story. So, see, it's not just one flashback where he's remembering one incident from the past. The story keeps on flipping between the present and the past, present and the past. So that's an excellent example of non-linear narrative. Non-linear narrative could also be two different stories happening at two different points. They could be related to each other. They may not be related to each other. There are so many examples of films that have this kind of non-linear narrative as well. So that's about this question. The second question was the shot where both of them are having coffee, and it's a top-down shot and OS of Agent Kuyan. In terms of composition and the camera angle and things, most of you got it right. The significance of the shot is where some of you missed a few things. See, in this shot, because we are seeing it, Kuyan is seated at a higher position and Kint is sitting at a lower position in the chair. This shot, when taken from over the shoulder of Agent Kuyan, it gives his dominating position. Till that point on in the film, he is dominating over Kint. He also calls Kint that you are weak and lame and things like that. I'm more intelligent than you are, and things like that. So it's establishing his position, his point of view. But in the same shot, because he's holding his coffee mug higher, Kint is able to see the brand of the coffee mug, which is Kobayashi, and which helps him weave his story from there on. It becomes significant really later when Kuyan drops the cup and it crashes. So the crashing of the cup is really used as a metaphor for the crashing or destroying Kuyan's confidence, Kuyan's intelligence, his dominance. So all these things. So the cup with the brand name Kobayashi is used as a metaphor for that. So everything that Kuyan had said earlier, that I'm more intelligent than you, I'm more smarter than you, and things like that, they just get destroyed. So that was the main thing in this image. That is why that angle, the coffee mug in the foreground, Kint looking really, not looking at Kuyan in the eyes, but really noticing the name of the coffee mug. All these things become very, very important. So most of you kind of missed the main points here, while you got everything right as far as composition and naming the shot. It's a close shot where it zooms in, tracks in, all those things you have got right. Okay, I think the third question was probably the most difficult one. The killing shot in Bonnie and Clyde, where they are riddled, their bodies are riddled with bullets. Why that shot is significant? Because suddenly during that shot, as the shooting begins, you will notice that the cuts become very, very fast. They are very short and very fast. Till then, the film is going at a fairly easy pace, even when they are running away from banks and stores after robbing them. Though there is a little bit of speed in terms of the action, the cuts are not really that sharp. They are fairly longer shots where you can see the car driving off into the distance and things like that. It is only during the killing that the shots become so short duration. And the main thing here was, as the scene or sequence goes on, the editing picks up pace. The editing becomes faster and faster. See, this film was made back in 1967, I believe, if I'm not getting the year wrong. And this kind of editing during then was not 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 very popular, not very well known, and someone to introduce that just to increase the pace of the film, to show the violent end that Bonnie and Clyde met with. I think that's the significance of this shot, and that will also show how editing decides what the viewer's response is to. We also, like, we are not expecting that high paced editing during that shot, because we have sat nicely and easily through the entire film. We have sat nicely and easily through the entire film, and suddenly during the last scene, we are like, "What the hell is happening?" Because it's so fast. So our response as a viewer changes. That is more important in this scene. That is how it speeds up the film. The fourth question again was kind of related to this. Why is it said that a film is remade or reshot at the editing table? Editing decides the mood and the pace of the film. While you're shooting, you're not really shooting it in a linear, you're not shooting the way the story is going to be told. Let's not use the word linear, but you're not shooting a film in the sequence that it is going to be told or it is going to be seen by the audience. It is the editing that puts the film in sequence, and so it decides the mood and the pace or the speed of the film. Editing can slow down things or pace up things. This is one of the first parts that is discussed in the documentary Cutting Edge. And the editor many times has no clue as to what was intended in the first place when the shooting was taking place, because the editor has not been on the sets, he has not seen anything of the film. He starts working based on the footage that he has received, and then he starts putting things together according to his perspective. And while of course the director also plays a very important role in editing, because while shooting the director does have how the film is going to look post edit. He does have a fair idea of it, but the editor does bring in his own perspective. There was a lot of discussion about this happening in the documentary Cutting Edge. Again, you have seen Quentin Tarantino, who is the director of the Terminator, I can't remember his name, James Cameron, talk about these things a lot. Jodie Foster also. A lot of times, even Spielberg, I had given that as a hint, Spielberg, where he talks about the scene in Schindler's List, where they're sitting and having a drink, and it was the editor's call there that the shot should stay, the shots taken should be longer duration, the expression and of the actors should be held for a longer time. So a lot of times what happens is editing will give you results that were not intended in the first place while the film was being shot, right? And the editor plays a very significant role, because he has to imagine how the audience is going to see this film, and he has to work accordingly based on what the story is, what the director's vision is, and then he applies his own perspective to that. And this is the main reason, because the film is not shot as it is going in the order that it is going to be seen by the audience, but the editing actually does that, and that is why it is said that a film is remade or reshot on the editing table. The fifth question was pretty straightforward as to what differences you see, which most of you have pointed out rightly. And there were a couple of aspects, though I think usual suspects, because it's a back and forth thing. The editing there is a little different. There is one part of the film that is happening in one location, and then the other story that Kint is telling is happening in different locations. So there is a little bit of difference in the way it is edited and the way these two different parts of the story are treated. Of course, there is camera work also that plays an important role in this. Bonnie and Clyde, of course, it picks up pace only towards the end. There are some scenes in between where it is paced up, but really reaches a peak during the last scene. 1917, of course, goes at a very uniform pace because of the long cuts, because of the traveling camera and all those things. It has a certain pace to it. Again, in a few shots, it does speed up, especially where he's running and jumping in the river and those kind of things. But overall, it's a very uniformly paced film because it intends to give a feeling of real time, that we are actually there while those events are unfolding or happening. So yeah, that's, I think these are some of the bullet points or main points that I think you should have noticed. If not in these films, editing is not something that you will start getting in a couple of films. You will have to watch a lot more films to really understand this. I'm also still learning these things. It's not that I know all of it, but yes, I just wanted to see what you guys have seen in these films, and what your responses are after watching these films. Now, when you watch any films in the future, keep these things in mind: what we have studied, what we have learned, what you have read, and it's not about what you have to write in the exam or things like that, but you will definitely start enjoying films more. You will definitely start, as you dissect them a little bit, why this is so, why it has been done in a certain way. And when you get the answers for yourselves, again, there is no right or wrong, but when you get the answers for yourselves, that just lets you enjoy things a lot more. All right, my phone battery is now running out suddenly. I'm down to 5%, so I'm signing off here, and soon I will share this video, mostly through YouTube, and hope that it reaches you guys, and then you enjoy this. Bye bye, take care, see you soon.